She had left her country for her husband, left her job, her comfortable life in the USA. She worked in fields, lived in a small village house, all because she loved him. And now she was kneeling on a cold floor, surrounded by people laughing at her, calling her a liar. She came to return her husband's wallet to him at his office. But this office, this building, this life, she knew nothing about it. In 6 months of marriage, her husband had hidden everything from her, and now the truth was about to destroy her. David stood at the floor-to-ceiling window of his Lagos penthouse, overlooking the glittering city below. At 28, he was one of Nigeria's youngest billionaires, a title that felt more like a burden than a blessing. His parents had built an empire in real estate and oil, and when they passed away 3 years ago, David inherited everything. But he didn't just maintain their legacy, he expanded it, opening branches in Dubai, London, and New York. "David, darling, you look stressed," a voice called from behind him. He turned to see Victoria, his company's chief operations officer, walking toward him in a designer dress that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary. Victoria was beautiful, ambitious, and came from one of Lagos's wealthiest families. She was also completely in love with him. "I'm fine, Victoria," he said politely, maintaining his distance. "You work too hard," she said, touching his arm. "We should have dinner tonight. Just the two of us." "I have a board meeting," he replied, gently removing her hand. Victoria's smile faltered, but she recovered quickly. "Of course." Always so dedicated. As she left, David sighed. This was the 5th time this week she'd tried to get him alone. The pressure wasn't just coming from Victoria. His entire family had been pushing him to marry her. His uncle had cornered him at a family gathering just last week. "Boy, what are you waiting for?" Uncle Joseph had said. "Victoria's family owns half of Victoria Island. A marriage between your families would make you unstoppable in this country. Your parents would have wanted this." David had remained silent. He hadn't said yes, but he hadn't said no either. He felt trapped, suffocating under the weight of expectations and business alliances disguised as love. 2 weeks later, David flew to New York to inspect his American branch. The Manhattan office was thriving, but he preferred to see things with his own eyes. He walked through the building in his tailored suit, observing employees who straightened up whenever he passed. "Mr. David, the quarterly reports are ready," his assistant said nervously. "Bring them to my office," he replied. As he turned a corner near the break room, disaster struck. An employee rushing with a cup of steaming coffee collided straight into him. The hot liquid splashed across his white shirt and expensive suit jacket. "Oh my God! Sir, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry." The young man stammered, his face turning pale with terror. David looked down at his ruined clothes. The coffee was soaking through to his skin, uncomfortably hot. "It's fine. Accidents happen. Just get back to work." "Sir, I said it's fine. Go." The employee scurried away, and David headed to find his assistant. "I need a change of clothes, now." "Sir, the nearest store is 30 minutes away, and you have a meeting in 20 minutes. Then find me something, anything." His assistant disappeared and returned 5 minutes later with a simple outfit borrowed from one of the junior employees. A plain blue shirt, ordinary black pants, and casual shoes. No designer labels, no silk, no custom tailoring, just regular clothes. David changed in his office bathroom and looked at himself in the mirror. He barely recognized the man staring back. He looked ordinary, average, like someone who worked a 9-to-5 job and worried about rent. For the first time in years, he didn't look like a billionaire. A strange sense of freedom washed over him. "Cancel my afternoon meetings," he told his assistant. "I'm taking the rest of the day off." "Sir? Are you sure?" "Yes, I need some air." David walked the New York streets feeling lighter than he had in months. No security guards followed him, no employees bowing and scraping. No one recognized him. He was just another face in the crowd. His stomach growled, reminding him he hadn't eaten since breakfast. He spotted a small, cozy restaurant called Mama's Kitchen and walked in. The place was simple but clean, with checkered tablecloths and the smell of home-cooked food filling the air. "Welcome. Sit anywhere you'd like," a cheerful voice called out. David looked up and froze. A young woman stood near the counter, holding a notepad and smiling warmly. She was beautiful, not in the polished, made-up way that Victoria was beautiful, but in a natural, genuine way that made his heart skip. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and she wore the restaurant's uniform, but something about her radiated warmth and kindness. And then she spoke, and he heard the slight Nigerian accent beneath her American pronunciation. "I'll be right with you, sir," she said, rushing to deliver plates to another table. David sat down, unable to take his eyes off her. When she approached his table, her smile was genuine, reaching her eyes. "Welcome to Mama's kitchen. I'm your server today. Can I start you off with something to drink?" "Water is fine," he managed to say. Are you Nigerian?" Her eyes lit up. "Yes. Born in Enugu but raised here in New York. You're Nigerian too, aren't you? I can tell from your accent." "Lagos," he said, feeling his own smile growing. "What's your name?" "Hope." "Hope Nwosu. And you?" "David. David Okonkwo." "Nice to meet you, David. What brings you to New York?" "Work," he said vaguely. "I'm just here for a few days." "What about you? How long have you been in America?" "My whole life, basically. My parents moved here when I was 2. I'm a nurse, actually, but I work here on weekends to save extra money. My parents aren't getting any younger, and I want to help them retire comfortably." David felt something shift in his chest. Here was someone who worked 2 jobs to care for her parents, while Victoria spent more on shoes than most people earned in a year. "That's admirable," he said softly. Hope blushed. "Thank you. Now what can I get you to eat?" They talked for another 5 minutes before she had to rush off to serve other customers. David watched her work, how she treated every customer with the same warmth and respect, how she remembered regular customers' orders, how she paused to chat with an elderly man eating alone. When she brought his food, he made a decision that would change everything. "Hope," he said as she set down his plate, "I know this is forward, but can I have your number? I'd like to talk to you more. Maybe we could meet again before I leave New York." She hesitated, biting her lip. "I don't usually give my number to customers." "I understand. I'm sorry if I made you uncomfortable." No, it's not that. You seem really nice. It's just, I want to be honest. I'm not rich. I work 2 jobs. I live in a small apartment in Queens with my parents. I don't go to fancy places or... "I don't care about any of that," David interrupted. "I just want to get to know you." Hope's smile could have lit up the entire city. She pulled out her order pad and wrote down her number. "Okay, but fair warning, I'm pretty boring. I work, spend time with my family, and go to church on Sundays. That's about it." "That sounds perfect to me," he said, and he meant it. That evening, David called Hope from his hotel room. They talked for 3 hours straight, about everything and nothing. She told him about growing up between 2 cultures, about her dreams of opening a free medical clinic in Nigeria someday. He told her about losing his parents, carefully editing out the parts about billions and empires. "So what do you do for work?" she asked. "I work in real estate," he said, which wasn't technically a lie. "Just an employee, nothing special. The pay is decent, keeps me comfortable." "That's good. As long as you're happy, right?" "Right," he echoed, pushing away the guilt creeping up his spine. They met the next day for coffee, then the day after for a walk in Central Park. David extended his New York trip, making excuses to his assistant. For the first time in years, he felt like himself. Not the billionaire, not the CEO, just David. Hope treated him like an equal. She insisted on splitting bills and refused to let him pay for everything. "We both work hard for our money," she said firmly. She talked to him about her struggles, her hopes, her fears. She was real in a way no one in his usual world was. After 2 weeks, David knew he was falling in love. But the lie sat between them like a ticking time bomb. "I have to go back to Lagos soon," he told her over dinner at a modest restaurant she'd chosen. Her face fell. "Oh, I understand. Long distance is hard, but come with me," he blurted out. "What?" "I know it's crazy. I know we've only known each other for a few weeks, but Hope, I've never felt this way about anyone. Come to Lagos. Be with me." "David, I can't just leave my job, my parents. Bring them too. Or visit first. I can't lose you." Hope was quiet for a long moment. My parents have been talking about moving back to Nigeria anyway. They miss home, and I've been saving money. I could work as a nurse there." She looked up at him with tears in her eyes. "Are you serious? You really want this?" "More than anything." "Then yes, I'll come." They made plans, they applied for documents, and 3 months later, in a small ceremony at Hope's church in New York, they got married. Her parents cried happy tears. His family had no idea. "Where are we going?" Hope asked as their taxi drove past Lagos's gleaming skyscrapers and into less developed areas. "Home," David said simply. "But I told you I'm not rich, Hope. I live simply, in a village outside the city." Her eyes widened as the landscape changed from urban to rural. The taxi finally stopped at a modest house in a quiet village. It was clean and comfortable, but nothing fancy. 2 bedrooms, a small living area, a kitchen. "This is it," David said, watching her carefully. Hope looked around, then smiled. "It's perfect. It's home." David felt relief flood through him, but the guilt grew heavier. Every morning, he woke at dawn and dressed in a simple shirt and pants, the clothes of an ordinary office worker. He'd kiss Hope goodbye and leave for work. Once he was halfway to the city, he'd stop at a rented apartment he'd secretly maintained and change into his suits. Then he'd go to his office and be the CEO for 8 hours before reversing the process. Meanwhile, Hope threw herself into village life. Despite her education, despite growing up in New York with modern conveniences, she adapted. She helped neighbors with their farms. She volunteered at the local health clinic. She learned to cook over a traditional fire when the power went out. She smiled through it all, never complaining. "How was work?" she would ask each evening as he came home in his ordinary clothes. "Good. Tiring. How was your day?" "I helped Mama Blessing with her garden today. And I taught some children basic first aid at the school. I love it here, David. Everyone is so kind." He'd hold her close, the lies weighing on his conscience. She'd given up everything for him, her job, her country, her comfortable life, and she did it all believing he was just an ordinary man. She loved him without money, without status, without any of the things people usually wanted from him. She loved him, the real him, and he was lying to her every single day. 6 months passed, 6 months of double lives and guilt. 6 months of watching his wife work in fields and walk miles to the market because he'd told her they couldn't afford a car. 6 months of pure love mixed with terrible deception. David made a decision. He couldn't keep living like this. Hope deserved the truth. She deserved to know everything, the money, the company, the empire. He'd tell her everything and pray she could forgive him. He planned it carefully. He'd arrange a special evening, sit her down and confess. He'd show her the penthouse, introduce her properly to his family, give her the life she deserved. She might be angry, but surely she'd understand that he'd only lied because he wanted to be loved for himself. He chose a date, Saturday, 3 days away. He'd tell her everything, but fate had other plans. Thursday morning started like any other. David woke early, kissed his sleeping wife, and got dressed in his simple work clothes. He was running late and rushing, his mind already on the board meeting scheduled for that morning. He drove halfway to Lagos, changed in his secret apartment, and headed to the office. His assistant met him at the elevator with a stack of papers. "Good morning, Mr. David. The board members are already waiting." "Good. Let's get started." Hope found the phone and wallet on the bedside table around noon. She recognized neither. David always carried an old, cheap phone. This one was sleek and expensive. She opened the wallet and saw credit cards with names she didn't recognize, important-looking business cards. Something wasn't right. She looked at the business card on top. Okonkwo Industries, David Okonkwo, Chief Executive Officer, CEO. Her husband was a CEO. Her hands trembled as she unlocked the phone. His password was her birthday. At least that was real. She saw emails about multi-million-dollar deals, messages from people addressing him as Mr. David, sir. Photos of him in expensive suits at galas and conferences. Her husband wasn't an ordinary office worker. He was rich, very rich, and he'd been lying to her for almost a year. Anger, confusion, and hurt warred within her. Why would he lie? Was their entire relationship a joke to him? Was she just an experiment? Let's see if the poor village girl really loves me? But beneath the anger was concern. He'd need these items. Whatever else was true, these were important. She dressed quickly in the simple clothes she'd grown used to, a modest dress she'd bought at the village market, and caught a bus to Lagos. The business card had an address. She'd give him his things, and then they'd talk. They'd figure this out. The bus dropped her off in front of a gleaming skyscraper that made her feel small and out of place. The building was all glass and steel, with expensive cars parked outside. She walked through the revolving doors, clutching the wallet and phone. A security guard stopped her immediately. "Excuse me, where do you think you're going?" "I'm here to see my husband." He forgot these at home. "Your husband?" The guard looked her up and down, taking in her simple dress and worn shoes. "What's his name?" "David Okonkwo." The guard's eyes widened, then he started laughing. "David Okonkwo? The CEO of this entire company?" "Yes, I'm his wife. I just need to—" "Ma'am, Mr. David is the richest man in this building. Look at you. You expect me to believe you're his wife?" "I am. Please, just call him. Tell him Hope is here." By now, other security guards had gathered, and several employees in the lobby had stopped to watch the commotion. The guards were all laughing. "This poor woman thinks she's married to the CEO. Look at her clothes. She probably cleans houses in the village." "Madam, you should leave before we call the real police." "Stop embarrassing yourself." Hope's face burned with shame, but she held her ground. "Please, I'm telling the truth. Just let me go up. The only thing you'll be going up to is jail if you don't leave right now." More employees had gathered now, and they all seemed to find her hilarious. A woman in an expensive business suit walked past, paused, and turned back. "What's going on here?" she asked. "This woman claims she's Mr. Okonkwo's wife," one guard explained, barely able to speak through his laughter. The woman, Victoria, looked at Hope with cold eyes. Her gaze traveled from Hope's simple dress to her worn shoes to her face, which was beginning to show tears of frustration. "You?" Victoria said, her voice dripping with disdain. "You think you're married to David Okonkwo?" "I am married to him. Please, I just need to—" "Do you have any idea who David Okonkwo is? He's a billionaire. He's one of the most powerful men in this country. And you—" Victoria laughed, a cruel sound that echoed through the lobby. "You're a village girl in rags. You're not fit to clean his floors, let alone call yourself his wife." "I know what this is," Victoria continued, her voice growing louder. "You stole these items. You probably worked as a cleaner somewhere and found them. Now you're trying to return them hoping for a reward. How pathetic." "No, I didn't steal anything. David is my husband." "Stop saying his name like you know him," Victoria shouted. "Guards, check those items. I bet she stole them." One of the guards grabbed the wallet from Hope's hands. She tried to hold on, but another guard pulled her arms back. "Give those back." "Those are my husband's." "Your husband?" Victoria's laugh was vicious. "You're a liar and a thief. Look at you kneeling on our floor like the beggar you are. You don't belong in a building like this. You belong in the dirt where you came from." The crowd of employees had grown larger. Everyone was laughing, pointing, taking photos with their phones. Hope felt her legs give out. She collapsed to her knees on the cold marble floor, tears streaming down her face. "Please," she sobbed, "please just tell him I'm here. Tell David his wife is here. The only thing I'm telling Mr. Okonkwo is that we caught a thief trying to steal his identity," Victoria said coldly. "Guards, call the police. Let them handle this gold-digging village rat." Hope couldn't breathe. The humiliation crashed over her in waves. All these people laughing at her, calling her a liar, a thief, a gold digger. And where was David? Where was her husband? The man she'd left everything for. The man she'd believed was like her, simple, honest, real. That man didn't exist. He'd been a lie. Everything had been a lie. "No," she whispered to herself, clutching her chest as sobs racked her body. "No, no, no." On the 14th floor, David was ending a board meeting when his assistant burst in, pale and shaking. "Sir, you must come downstairs now. I'm in the middle of— It's urgent." A woman is claiming to be your wife, and Miss Victoria is—" David's blood froze. Hope, he didn't wait. He ran to the elevator, heart slamming. The descent felt endless. When the doors opened, the sight before him burned into his soul. Employees crowded in a circle, laughing. In the middle, Hope knelt on the marble floor, sobbing into her hands. Her wrapper was rumpled, her face streaked with tears. His wallet and phone lay scattered nearby. Over her loomed Victoria, smiling like a predator. "Look at this creature," Victoria sneered. She thought she could pretend to be Mrs. Okonkwo. As if David would ever marry. "Enough!" David's roar silenced the room. Heads turned, laughter died, the crowd parted. He strode forward, fury blazing. "Mr. David," someone whispered. Hope looked up. Recognition lit her swollen eyes, followed by betrayal. "David?" He dropped to his knees beside her, uncaring of his suit. "Hope, I'm so sorry." "She tried to impersonate your wife," Victoria cut in. "She stole your wallet." In a flash, David stood and struck her across the face. The crack echoed. Gasps filled the air as Victoria staggered, clutching her cheek. "She is my wife," he thundered. "Hope Okonkwo. The woman you mocked, humiliated, and called a thief, she is my wife." Silence fell. "Sir, I didn't know," Victoria stammered. "You didn't know because you assumed." His voice shook with rage. "You judged her clothes and denied her respect. And all of you," he turned on the staff, "you laughed, called her a liar when she spoke the truth." His eyes locked on the guards. "You're fired. Every one of you who touched my wife, leave this building." He turned back to Hope. She recoiled. "Don't," she whispered. "Don't touch me." "Hope, please." "You lied," her voice cracked, "about everything. Who you are, what you do. Where do you live? I can explain." "Explain," she glared, tears pouring. "I left my country for you. I left my job. I labored in fields, walked miles every day because I thought we had no money. I endured it gladly because I loved you. I love you too." "No." She shoved him. "You tested me. Like an experiment. Let's see if the poor girl really loves me. Isn't that it?" "That's not—" "I slept on a thin mattress while you had this." She gestured at the opulent lobby, his polished shoes, his tailored suit. "I saved every coin, worried about money. And you watched me suffer." Silent David's tears blurred his sight. "I was going to tell you this weekend." "This weekend?" Her voice broke. "We've been married for 6 months. 6 months of lies." The employees stood frozen, uneasy at the sight of their powerful CEO crumbling. "I only wanted to know if someone could love me for me, not my wealth or name," he pleaded. "I did love you," she screamed. "I gave up everything. But the man I loved never existed. He was just a mask you wore." She rose unsteadily. He reached for her. She slapped his hands away. "Don't. Just don't. Where are you going?" "Away. From you. From all this." She swept her gaze over the crowd, the grandeur, Victoria still trembling. "This isn't my world. And apparently you're not my husband. Hope, please, let me make this right." "Make it right?" She gave a bitter laugh. "How do you undo 6 months of lies? How do you undo the nights I worried, the humiliation I endured?" She snatched the wallet and phone from the floor and hurled them at his chest. "Here. They're yours, like everything else. I don't want them. Hope, my name is Mrs. Okonkwo, isn't it?" Her tone was ice. "But I never wanted to be the billionaire's wife. I wanted to be Hope, married to David, the man who wooed me in a restaurant. But that man never existed." She turned for the door. David followed, desperate. "I'll do anything. Please don't leave me." At the threshold, she stopped, looking back one last time. Her face was carved with pain. "You know the saddest part?" she whispered. "I would have loved you anyway. Rich or poor, CEO or worker. I would have loved you. But you never trusted me enough to give me the choice. You didn't trust my love. And that hurts more than all your lies." She stepped into the Lagos sun. David stood frozen in the doorway, watching the only real thing in his life vanish into the crowd. Behind him, silence reigned. Victoria slipped away, employees scattered uneasily. For David Okonkwo, Nigeria's youngest billionaire, master of wealth and empire, it was the end of everything. He had power, status, and riches. But he had lost her. "My sweet family, Would you forgive David? Comment forgive or never below. If this story touched your heart, don't miss our next tale. Subscribe to Roots of the African Tales for more powerful stories of love, betrayal, and redemption from across Africa. Hit that subscribe button now, your next unforgettable story awaits.